Jadi nanti mulai aja sesuai urutan ya, Pak Akbar. Terima aja.
Siap. Ya.
Masuk 33 lebih.
Yang bukan narsum di mute aja. Biar...
Guys. Cek aman. Karena
Tes.
tes. Panas nih. Miring. Miring deh. Jadi yang ini sih. Terus.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can everyone hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Before we start, could the admin of the meeting mute down those who are not speakers in this session, so that we can start to spotlight the ones that are on the screen. So, my name is Astrid Nadiriskita, and I'd like to welcome you all in the webinar. I think it's already the 11th webinar of OIC Youth Indonesia since the pandemic, regarding youth employability, reflection, challenges in Muslim countries after COVID-19. So in this occasion, we're very glad to have speakers from cross-border, joining us all the way from Istanbul, from Malaysia, Jakarta, and among others. And this webinar is held in cooperation with Rumah Gemilang Indonesia and Lembaga Zakat Al-Azhar as our organizing partners. And the agenda will start with the usual welcoming speakers, and then there will be a video of OIC Youth Indonesia recent activity and also Rumah Gemilang Indonesia, and then we'll proceed to giving the floor to the moderator, Dr. Ahmad Akbar Susamto from Masyarakat Ekonomi Syariah. He's in charge of the youth affairs in MES, and also he's a lecturer in UGM. And the speakers are from MBM, Genc Musiad, and from HIPMI, or Indonesia Young Entrepreneur Association. So with that, I'd like to please kindly welcome the first welcoming speaker of this evening, Mr. Tantan Taufiq Lubis, the Vice President of ICYF, Asia representative, and also the Chairman of the National League Council. To Mr. Tantan Taufiq Lubis, the time and place is yours. You may have the floor. We can't hear you yet, Bang. Could the please host unmute the mic of Mr. Tantan? Thank you.
Okay. Already?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Innal hamdalillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudhillalah wa may yudlilhu fala hadiyalah. Ikhwani fid din, arsadakumullah, all my brothers and sisters around the world. First of all, let's thank to Allah who give us opportunity to be together here. And secondly, I would like to thank to the committee who invite us to delivery opening remark in this webinar discussion about the employment and entrepreneurship. And also, I would like thank to all the speaker here. I saw my brothers from Indonesian Young Entrepreneur Association, Bang J Singgih. Assalamualaikum, Bang J. And also, I would like to thank
Waalaikumsalam.
my brother Faruk Yaman Karadenis, the Vice President of Genc Musiad. He is the friend of my brother Yunus Furkan Akbal and Yusuf Furkan Akbal also, and all the team of Genc Musiad that will be here tonight. And also my old brother from Majelis Belia Malaysia, Abu Kadir, already here also together with us. And moderator Bang Dr. Ahmad Susamto yang sudah berkenan memandu acara hari ini. Gitu. And I don't forget also to thank to Mr. Ustadz Rayyan, the CEO of Rumah Gemilang, the Al Azhar Foundation.
Sorry, could the host please unmute Mr. Tantan? We can't hear him. Abang, we still can't hear you.
How future of the international or the global economics after COVID-19. As we know, the COVID-19 is affected to whole aspects, including social, politics, economy, and another. So we are Indonesian young generation, and all the participants around the world would like to ask you, all the speakers, to deliver the new perspective about how to facing the global challenge, especially in the economic sector. I think Sinab, thank you so much for kind attention. Wabillahi taufiq ila aqwamit thoriq, wallahu muwafiq ila sabilil haq. Nun wal qalami wa ma yasturun fastabiqul khairat. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Tantan Taufiq Lubis for the welcoming speech. And now we proceed to the welcoming speech from Rumah Gemilang Indonesia representative, the director, Mr. Rayyan. The time and place is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Astrid, as my best partner to prepare and this agenda. My first greetings belong to all the honorable speaker and participant. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable speaker, Mr. Faruk Yaman Karadenis, the Vice President of Genc Musiad Turkey. Thanks very much for participate, give the speech for this meeting. And also Mr. Abu Kadar Mubarak Ali, Exco Majelis Muda Malaysia. And also Mr. JAYA Singgih, General Treasurer HIPMI JAYA, Indonesian Youth Entrepreneur Association. And also Mr. Ahmad Akbar Susamto, as a moderator, my beloved lecturer, since I was studying Gadjah Mada University. And also Mr. Taufiq as our advisor from ICYF, Mr. Syafii Efendi as a president of ICYF Indonesia, as our best partner ever after, and all the participants on this stunning event. Thank you very much for joining with us. And today was a difficult situation. All people around the world have been attacked by pandemic COVID-19. We can see in all countries that have struggled nowadays to survive and eradicating COVID-19 from the world. As a part of the situations, Muslim countries also face the similar problems. Somewhere is maybe worse than others. Iran, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Bahrain, Pakistan, Kuwait, Malaysia, and Indonesia are countries that are struggling to overcome the spread of the deadly virus. All countries prioritize effort to prevent citizens who have not been affected and treat citizens who are positively indicated with the best support. Indonesia, for example, is currently one of the countries with the largest increasing in suspected victims in Southeast Asia. This is a very bad situation. So as an organization that focus on helping the young generation of Indonesia, OIC Youth Indonesia and the Al-Azhar Zakat Institute through Rumah Gemilang Indonesia work together to build community education as a constructive measure to deal with this deadly plague. The education's approach with a webinar is also expected to be able to provide an opportunity and hope for all participants, including us and the Indonesian public in general. So finally, I appreciate for all participants and speakers who has attended this stunning moment over this month. We are really sorry if there's any mistakes from us as official of this event. We hope you enjoy all the topics from the speaker, and we can inform you that all participants today will get e-certificate of appreciation from the committee. So you can check it out in our information contact for requesting the certificate in our Instagram at Rumah Gemilang. So in the end, may Allah blessing us ever after. So thank you very much, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Miss
so
Astrid.
much.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rayyan, for the welcoming speech. And now we move to the main agenda, which is the panel session. But before that, I'd like to give the floor to Dr. Ahmad Akbar Susamto as the representative of Masyarakat Ekonomi Syariah and the chairperson of Youth Affairs. He will be leading the panel session, and the time and place is yours, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Mbak Astrid. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, let's thank to Allah for all His blessing that allow us tonight to be here together in this session. To Mr. Syafii Efendi, President of OIC Youth Indonesia, Mr. Rayyan Luminaries, Director of Rumah Gemilang Indonesia, Mr. Tantan Taufiq Lubis, Chairman of Indonesia National Youth Council, and also Asia representative of ICYF, and also to the speakers, to the audience. It is a great pleasure once again to be here with you all, and inshallah we will have a discussion about youth employability, reflection and challenge in Muslim countries after the COVID-19 pandemic. So we will have three speakers in this session. The first speaker is Mr. Kadir Mubarak Ali, Abu Kadir Mubarak Ali, Executive Committee of Majelis Belia, Malaysia. So of course he will be talking from the perspective of youth in Malaysia. And then the second speaker is Mr. Furkan the Vice President of Genc Musiad, Turkey. And we hope that he will deliver some issues, some reflections, some challenge of the youth employability in Turkey. And then the third speaker will be is Mr. Singgih, the Vice President of OIC Youth Indonesia. He is also an entrepreneur, also one of the committee members of the HIPMI JAYA, which is Youth Entrepreneur Association of Indonesia. And before I pass the session, before I pass the forum to the speakers, please kindly give me a chance to give the context of the discussion today. So here is the context of our discussion today. So as we know that, as you know that the COVID pandemic has been affecting many people around the world. There has been more than 3 million cases in the world. And then we know that this is expected to affect all of the global economy. And one of the point is that we will have, one of the projection is that we will have much lower economic growth rate in this year. And from that, it is expected that the situation will affect employability of the people in the world. And this is just example of the cases in several big countries, several large economies in the world. And it is expected that the unemployment rate will be increasing sharply this year. Brothers and sisters, just to give you a brief information about what happens in the past. So this is the situation in the select Muslim countries, the situation about the employability before the COVID-19. So you can see here, especially like this one, the case of Indonesia, the case of Malaysia, and then the case of Turkey. And in general, the unemployment rate is higher for the youth than for the total population. As you can see here, the red dots are mostly above the blue dot. And then the next one, this one is the case of male. This one, this one should be the case of male. And then the case of female. My point is that the youth unemployability is mostly lower than the general population, both for the case of male and also for the case of female. And this is the situation before the COVID-19 pandemic. So it is very likely that after the COVID-19 pandemic, the situation is getting worse. And that is what we need to discuss today with all of the speakers from their experience, from their perspective, from their reflections in their respective countries. So we have 3 countries to be discussed, especially tonight. The first one is, of course, Indonesia. And this is the brief profile of Indonesia. You know, Indonesia has population about 260 million people. And then the second one is Malaysia. And then the third one is Turkey. So inshallah, we will be discussing about the youth employability in these 3 countries. Of course, you might ask why we choose the word employability, not unemployment rate, for example. This is behind that. I think we have the spirit, the good spirit, that we want to look at the issue from the positive point of view, not from the negative point of view, which is unemployment. We want to talk about the employability from the positive perspective. Okay, I think that is the introduction from me, and we hope that you follow this discussion until this session ends, until this forum ends, and we hope that everyone here can contribute positively, contribute actively in the discussion session, so we can have a good discussion. We can share our reflection together. So please, I will invite the first speaker of our sessions tonight, which is Mr. Abu Kadir Mubarak Ali, Executive Committee of Majelis Belia, Malaysia. Mr. Abu Kadir Mubarak Ali, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, brother. And the President of Youth Malaysia, Malaysian Youth Council,
Mr. Abu Kadir. Yep.
Saudara Jufitri Johar, the President, sent his regards to all our brothers and sisters that he couldn't make it for this session. Okay, all right. A bit of comment on the youth employment in Malaysia. So it was predicted that in the next 2 to 3 months, the rate of youth employment will increase to up to 2.5 million in Malaysia. To give you a perspective, the current rate of employment is around 500,000, and there's an increase around 40% because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And this will continue not only for the few months' time, but at least for the next 2 years. There are a lot of companies that have shut down, and small, medium enterprise companies who are actually employing the youth in their own businesses, but they do not have choice to employ the youth anymore because of the pandemic. And so what we are in Malaysia doing through the Malaysian Youth Concept is what you have rightly pointed out, brother, is we are looking at upskilling them instead. We don't look at the problem per se. We keep talking about the problem again and again, and we talk about issues, but there's no any solid solutions. And we have been talking about youth employment for the last 3 to 5 years, and it keeps going on the same circle again and again. So what we are looking at here is to upskill these young people what are the skills required in this era, regardless of COVID-19 era. We live in a black swan era whereby anything can happen, or rather in a VUCA world, vulnerable, uncertain, and COVID-19 can disappear in the next few months' time. But there might be another issue coming out later. There might be an economic depression. There might be another new virus coming up. We don't know. So rather than focusing on the problem, what if we focus on building resilience among the youth? Skills such as coding, scripting, digital skills, video editing. These are skills there are a lot of jobs out there. In the last 2 to 3 months, according to data that we have, there was really high demand of jobs on designing website, writing descriptions about product, online products and services. So those kind of jobs, even though they are gig economy, but the jobs are still there. The income are still there. In Malaysia itself, during the pandemic, COVID-19, for the last 2 months, we have been locked in our houses. There has been an increase of 500,000 sales on online shopping. So all the youth are going out there and shopping online. This actually has created opportunity for the young people to earn income, side income such as scripting for website, copywriting for product and services. So what we are doing in Malaysia right now is we are changing it a bit. We are telling the youth, let's upskill ourselves, regardless what's the situation right now. And with those skills, let's find job opportunities. It might be permanent, it might be temporary, as long as you have income. We are also encouraging the youth to replace the foreign workers who have finished their contract in Malaysia as well. So we have this problem in that the youth in Malaysia, they are not too keen to do the 3D jobs, dirty, demeaning, and discredit. So right now, they are slowly opening up to the idea, while the government and the NGO as Malaysian Youth Council, we are pressuring the government to help increase the pay for the youth. Indirectly, we will assist and help to reduce the youth employment. But all in all, brothers and sisters, upskilling is the most important point we should be looking at for the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak. Thank you, Mr. Abdul Kadir Mubarak Ali, for his brief introduction of the discussion today. So I will pass the forum to Mr. Furkan Yaman Kare Dennis. Please, Mr. Furkan, time is yours.
Thank you, Faruk. Mr. Faruk Yaman Kare Dennis, that's correct. Selamünaleyküm. My name is Faruk Yaman Kare Dennis. I'm Vice President of Genc Musiad, and today I would like to give you some information about Turkish economics, especially youth employment after COVID-19 in Turkey. Using the data of Turkish Statistical Institute and SSI data, the central bank estimates that the number of employees that could be directly and indirectly affected by the COVID-19 outbreak in April-June 2020 period in 5.6 million people. In 2019, approximately 23 million people work in non-agricultural sectors. It's estimated that approximately a quarter of the non-agricultural sector employees are affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. Those who are unprotected in the face of the crisis are those who works in private sector in their wage employees and self-employed, we can say. According to the data of, again, Turkish Statistical Institute, the number of people working in private sector, in non-agricultural sector as salaried and self-employed is 16 and 6 million people. It's estimated about 3.1 million of these are directly affected by outbreaks measures, and 2.5 million are indirectly affected by the outbreak. In the April-June period, it's estimated that 5 million of the jobs lost in the private sector was in the service sector. And 550,000 in the sector, manufacturing industry sector. Unfortunately, I can say that as the young population is heavily involved in the service sector, the youth employment rate is expected to be affected by this job loss. Measures taken to the epidemic and the expected decreases in domestic demand and export demand, these will cause an employment decrease of approximately 2.5 million people in 2020, according to the estimations made. They represent 8.9% drop compared to the 2019 employment rate. According to the February 2020 Turkish Statistical Institute's data, young unemployment data, which is 24.4 percentage, is expected to be affected by this decrease in employment. So what is our government, what's Turkey doing for protection employment in during the COVID-19 days in Turkey? Of course, the Turkey has taken a series of measures in order to protect employment. The first of all, I think the most crucial thing is VAT and SSI, which is Social Security institutions, payments are postponed for 6 months. Thereby, employers and companies are supported, and no rent will be received by the public from the workplaces whose activities have been compulsorily suspended. Statement of seed grant support within the scope of the program for development of vegetative production. If the contract terms cannot be fulfilled due to the epidemic, for the tenders held by public institutions. A time extension or an opportunity to terminate the contracts is to be given. Increases credit guarantee funds support from 25 million to 25 billion liras to 15 billion liras, aiming to continue employment by the supporting employers and institutions in front of the postponing small and medium-sized enterprise development organization in Turkey. We say COSGAP, we call COSGAP, receivables that will occur until June, end of the June to 2021. And I think first is enough. And what Genc Musiad to do to fight with this unemployment situation in Turkey? I think we believe in this type of situation. We believe in entrepreneurship. We always encourage our friends, our brothers, our sisters to become an entrepreneur, to producing in service sector or produce some technological or the other things, because we believe that in especially Muslim countries have a huge young population, and this type of governments or this type of populations, peoples have been encouraged about the entrepreneurship. They encourage about to find their own way. And as we Genc Musiad, as a Genc Musiad, we always encourage our young friends or young brothers to be an entrepreneur. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Furkan Yaman Kara Dennis, for his speech. So we have two speakers already. The first one was Mr. Abu Kadir Mubarak Ali was emphasizing about the importance of upskilling as a strategy to improve the employability of the youth. And then Mr. Furkan Dennis has emphasized some measures that have been taken by the government in Turkey, and also a bit about the challenge there. Now we will together welcome our third speaker, Mr. Singgih from Indonesia. We hope that he will be presenting his reflection about the current condition in Indonesia, and also perhaps some of the solution that can be offered in the future. Mr. Singgih, I will pass the forum to you. Please, time is yours.
Thank you to Pak Ahmad Akbar Susamto. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and thanks to OIC Youth Indonesia in collaboration with Indonesian National Youth Council, Lembaga Amil Zakat Al-Azhar, and Rumah Gemilang Indonesia for the kind invitation to me to be able to participate in this forum with the theme of Ramadan Talk webinar series on youth employability, reflection and challenges in Muslim countries after COVID-19. First of all, I would also like to thank my senior and my good friend and the founder of OIC Youth Indonesia, Mr. Tantan Taufiq Lubis, and the current chairman, Mr. Syafii, and my fellow distinguished speakers, Mr. Abu Kadir Mubarak Ali and Mr. Yunus Furkan Akbal, as well as previous speaker, Mr. Furkan, I believe. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to mention about this purpose and objectives and how each of us are tackling the situation. The impacts of COVID-19 for sure impacts everyone in all our countries. And I believe Indonesia is unique because we are the world's largest archipelago. So in that sense, the spread of the COVID-19 in Indonesia, which has more than 17,000 islands, may be a bit different as compared to other landlocked nations and other countries because of our geographical scenario. The second one is that in addition to being a Muslim country, Indonesia also, as also stated by our Pancasila, that I believe Indonesia has a very strong, how can I put it, social awareness, and also what we call gotong royong and kepedulian sosial, which means that we help our brothers and sisters working together hand in hand, as well as we have a very high sense of a communal and a community way of living. So obviously, every country respond this in a different way. In terms of Indonesia, our president, Bapak Joko Widodo, has taken, I believe, a very wise and decisive measure, and also a very clear instructions to all the governors, regions, and mayors across all the 34 provinces of Indonesia. And unlike some other countries, perhaps less compared to China, where the cities where the pandemic started only contributes less than 3% to the national GDP of China. Whereas in Indonesia, our capital, Jakarta, contributes around 45% to the total GDP of Indonesia. And when you talk about unemployment, I would also like to talk about the Omnibus Law. The Omnibus Law was or is currently being negotiated and being re-evaluated with the government. The Omnibus Law was actually taken from the idea of the Omnibus Bill in the US. The Omnibus Law has several clauses. One of it is obviously about workforce and labor, because as I can see in the term of reference, it's also point of concern with the International Labour Organization. In Indonesia, the partner of the International Labour Organization is the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, known as Kadin, as well as the Indonesian Employers Association, known as Apindo. So Kadin and Apindo are responsible for one of it is the chairman of Kadin. Pak Rosan is also the chair of the Omnibus Law Review Committee, and Apindo as the umbrella organization for all the labor's unions, and also on setting the minimum wages and dealing with unemployment issues. I would also like to comment on the previous my fellow speakers have mentioned about the bonus demography, which they have, which we all have, in the sense that we have a very large young population. We have more than 250 million population, and most of them are youth. We have also increasing income per capita. We have still a single digit, 5 or 6% steady GDP growth in the past couple of years. And as you know, Indonesia is in the Asia Pacific, where we are between, how can I put it, two continents and two oceans. And Asia Pacific consists mainly of sea, and Indonesia also 2/3 covered by sea. And this, I believe, is important factor when we're talking about trade, because 90% of the world trade is still conducted through sea transport. So that's the first one on how it impacts the countries. How we respond to the crisis, the government has created what is known as Satgas, which is like a working unit, basically, is handled by the body which is called BNPB, which is dealing on national disasters. However, of course, natural disasters can be categorized into two: national disasters and other type of disasters. But I believe in the future we need a separate body dealing with this biological, chemical, radioactive, medicinal, or viruses, and so on and so forth. And we have a lot of informal or formal organizations that are assisting the local government, assisting on the regency level, on the city, and also on the smaller communities, which are, some are part of the government initiative, some are part of our culture, which we have always actually worked hand in hand together. I think the most important is the purpose or objective number 3, which is to discuss the role of youth organization in dealing with the uncertain situation with the theme of unemployment. This is a double-edged sword, or two sides of the same coin, in the sense that, yes, COVID-19, according to me, has really made a lot of people suffer. People have had to relocate to their villages or smaller cities, where on one hand, they may have less expenditures, but on the other hand, they may not have the same job or the same market which they had when they were working in the bigger cities or the capital of the provinces. So this is also double-edged sword, because on one hand, they spend less, but on the other hand, they do not have the same source of income which they have had for so many years. The role of youth organization, according to me, is to focus more on the social welfare and on the economics. What I mean is that social welfare is a given. We are working with the communities very closely. The government is also ensuring that all the help and assistance are provided on the right places, putting the right man on the right job, distributing it to the right channels to make sure that those who need most receive most. We do not want there to be a wrong target of distribution. And how the government should reduce the risk of this COVID-19 to the workforce, like was mentioned also by my fellow speakers, that I think the impact or the multiplier effect of the COVID-19, specifically on economics, will not end when COVID ends. It will take us 3 to 5 years to recover. And I think the government must have a contingency plan. Let this be a lesson. we need, for example, a 5 years contingency plan, because we don't know, something similar or different may hit us again. I mean, we all hope it does not, but we have to we have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Um, if I address the last point, how to find opportunities, well, to be honest, let's see that 2/3 of the Indonesian GDP is made of domestic consumption, and 1/3 of the GDP is foreign direct investments. Let us remember that most of the businesses are family businesses, from small food stalls, small mom and pop shops, until big conglomerations. They are mainly family businesses. That's the first point. The second one is that we have to think that we have to understand that actually the small medium-sized enterprise is the backbone of the economy, because Indonesia does not have a capital management system in the sense that capitals or foreign funds can enter and leave the country at the same time. For example, in Thailand or in China, it's different. Foreign funds enter the country and they can only leave after a certain point of time. Indonesia doesn't have that. So we have to promote and create incentives. So how the government could support? Firstly, to create a more conducive environment for people to do business. The second one is to reduce overlapping regulations and to find the same alignment of interest, to reduce the lending rates, as in the interest rates in the bank, to introduce more cooperatives and SME banks to support our small medium-sized enterprises, because end of the day, it is the SME which is the backbone of the economy, be it formal or informal sector, meaning those who are registered as a legal entity, or even those who are uh, dealing with it as a sole proprietary. And when actually this COVID creates a lot of unemployment, but on the other hand, this COVID also creates more entrepreneurs, because now in this situation, people are forced and pressed to be creative. People are forced to find ideas, to find a solution. You know, usually it's like a diamond shines under pressure. So the more pressure you're on, the more you shine, the more ideas. Like it could be, very enterprising ideas. It could be very creative ideas, and you have a lot now of people becoming entrepreneurs, and you see them using applications and online or information technology platforms to sell their products. And a lot of people also actually um, expand on their hobbies and their talents and start to sell their own product, making their own products, so, any kind of goods, food and beverages. So actually, what we have to understand is that this COVID um, has also some good points. Of course, I'm not talking about the disaster, but I'm talking about we have to find a new balance. We have to find a new normal, a new equilibrium that people would have to get used, or maybe some people would have to change their lifestyle, or maybe through this COVID, people discover that actually they have to change the way they live, and they have to be more aware about their community, and they have to have higher sense of belonging, higher sense of camaraderie, or sense of affiliate to their neighbors and their friends and their communities. And I feel that the government has to work very close to support the private sector, because, for example, whenever, like now, when we have the medical situation whereby there are not enough hospitals, it is the private sector that can actually support. They can open up their hotel rooms, they can open up their warehouses, their buildings, to actually accept people and to treat people better. And the second one is that Indonesia has to find um, more alliances. For example, we have had a lot of loans from the Asian Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, IMF, and our neighboring countries and our friends. And this also has created an economic situation in Indonesia such that the state budget and the national budget and the provincial budget cannot be spent on businesses. So that's why you need more entrepreneurs who doesn't use the state budget, but purely private enterprise. So this allows the government to use the state budget to assist this pandemic. And also you have a new breed of entrepreneurs that are fully private sector, and increasing their competencies, increasing their capabilities, and increasing their skill sets, so that they have to survive in the situation. And maybe you will be surprised to find that many people may not go back to their jobs after COVID. They may decide to remain being entrepreneurs. And what I think is a good point is that when you have more entrepreneurs, then it creates more employment in the long run. So I think it's a double-edged sword and two sides of the same coin. But I think that youth organizations such as OIC Youth have been doing such a great job. Especially, I can talk about Indonesia, have been giving a lot of social care and social support through the communities. And I hope and I trust that other youth organizations such as Indonesian National Youth Council and HMI, for example, are doing a lot of things together hand in hand. And let's hope and pray that we will see better days soon. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Singgih, for his deep reflection about the current situation in Indonesia. And brothers and sisters, I would like to welcome Mr. Syafii Efendi, who is now with us in this forum. Mr. Syafii Efendi is the president of the OIC Youth Indonesia, and let's welcome him and let's give chance for him to also share his reflection of the current situation, and also perhaps to welcome all here today together in this session. So Mr. Syafii Efendi, I will pass over the forum to you. Please take the time to share your reflections, your thinking about the current situation. Mr. Syafii Efendi, the time is yours. Pak Syafii Efendi. Pak Syafii Efendi, can you hear me? Unfortunately, we have not got any response from him. So, okay, let us continue with our sessions. Now, as we heard the reflections from all of the speakers today, from Mr. Abu Kadir, Mubarak Ali, Mr. Faruk Yaman Karadenis. I'm sorry, it was mistaken. It's now correct, Mr. Faruk Yaman Karadenis, and then also Mr. Singgih. So please, anyone, if you want to share your comments or your question, please just raise your hand, and then I will give you the chance to share your thinking. Anyone from the audience? Anyone? So I think inshallah we will have enough time, about 1 hour until the next until 30 past time. Anyone? Not yet. So if no one raise his hand, then I would like to ask to Mr. Abu Kadir Mubarak Ali just to hear further from him about the reflections in the case of Malaysia. Perhaps you can share to us what you see, or what is your thought about the government of Malaysia, about what has been done by the government of Malaysia to respond to COVID-19, especially with respect to the economy, with respect to the employment, and in what side then your organization or the youth in Malaysia in general can contribute to that effort to handle the situation now. Mr. Abu Kadir Mubarak Ali, could you please share your further thought about that?
Thank you, Mr. Ahmad. So for what the government of Malaysia has done to assist Malaysian generally and the youth, first of all, they have given all Malaysian from all income levels, from below and from top and middle and below, a one-off payment of money, but it differs according to your income bracket. If you earn below 1,000 US, you get a different amount. Above 1,000 US, you give a different amount, and of course above 2,000 or 3,000 US, you get a different amount. They are being given assistance one-off, and also the small companies, entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs who has a company with less than 200 people. They have been given assistance as well, one-off, and also the general Malaysian, they have been allowed to withdraw their retirement funds, their social security protection retirement fund, emergency, for 1 year. For 1 year. So every month they can withdraw a maximum amount of around 150 US dollars for the next 12 months. This is unprecedented. It was never done before in the entire history of Malaysia, because we are in a very VUCA situation right now, very out of norm. So it was allowed. The government also has worked with the banks and the Central Bank of Malaysia, to allow a moratorium of bank loans for housing and also for vehicles. So for the next 4 to 6 months, Malaysian citizen has an option not to pay, or rather postpone. You still have to pay later. You can postpone the payment for the next 6 months up to October. So that has actually helped to loosen up and create the fluidity of money to exchange hands and to stimulate the economy as well. Apart from that, also the government of Malaysia has also allowed the reduction of the employer's contribution to the retirement fund. So every month, the salary of Malaysian workers in a formal sector, their salary will be deducted for the retirement fund. So right now, it has been reduced from 11% to 7%. An employer or majikan employer, they are allowed to postpone their payment of their share to the retirement fund, to delay it for the next 2 to 3 months, because we understand entrepreneurs, small businesses are struggling to pay the amount of money. So that's what the government have done. On the other hand as well, the government has created a job matching platform, whereby out of Saudi right now, there are a lot of job opportunities with a middle income P, and they are matching with Malaysians who have lost their jobs. And majority of the job loss are actually the youth jobs. So this is what has been going on right now.
Yeah, please continue.
Sorry, the video, right? And then the tax reduction as well has been implemented as well for the companies, entrepreneurs as well. And this is what has been done right now. On the other hand, my personal opinion is, I feel this system of assistance is maybe the way forward in the future. Maybe a small form of UBI, universal basic income, may be applicable for the future for those who are earning a lower salary, and the economic situation is going to be quite unstable for the next 2 to 3 years, or even 10 years. So government would need to look at a solution for helping those who are in need. On the other hand, I do agree with what the previous brother had mentioned about encouraging youth to venture into entrepreneurship. I think is good. And I also feel that the way of life for the youth in the future is a sustainable life. Agriculture, whereby you grow your own food, you rely 100% on the things that you have. so you don't need to go and buy, because um, we live in an era which is unpredictable right now, and the youth are afraid of a lot of things. So maybe the way forward in the future is also agriculture, while I think the governments of the world have to look at a sort of form of UBI, universal basic income. At least it's not a full salary, but at least basic income to pay for their basic necessity: food, electricity, water, even internet. Internet is, I see it as to be one of the basic necessity of the Maslow hierarchy of needs, I think. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think, can you please elaborate further, a little bit further about how the youth could contribute in this situation, in the changing situation of the society, of the economy?
Okay, so I think the youth need to learn to complain less, but adapt to the situation, because the situation won't adapt to how you perceive it. You can't change a situation, but you can change the way you react towards it. I think the youth has to be more resilient, and I think the IR 4.0 is already here. It's not 2 to 3 years back, it's already here. Now, COVID-19 has expedited a lot of things, expedited the digital era. We are basically, like myself, I've been sitting at home for the last 2 months. I was locked in the house and I'm relying 100% to digital. And it has shown that we can live a life without going to the office or without being physically outside and rely 100% on digital. On the other hand, we can earn an income to digital platforms as well. And I'm sure Indonesia has one of the top best digital startups in the world, actually, and even in Asia, ASEAN and Asia. So I think there are a lot of opportunities there, and the youth, again, what I'm saying is upskilling and empowering themselves and finding opportunities. On the other hand, youth organization has to keep pressuring the government as well. We as a youth organization, we have a role to fight for the right of the youth as well, and make sure that they are not being oppressed and their rights have been read as well. I would also like to add another point. COVID-19 has created a situation where government is restricting movement of people, and they have to do that because the situation demands that. However, it may, looking at history, it may create a tendency of government to be in form of dictatorship. It may open doors towards that. And I think we, as a youth organization, we have to make sure that the government does not reach to that level. We need to keep voicing our voice and saying what we are not happy and ensuring that democracy takes place. I think that's really important as well, not to forget. Thank you.
Thank you. Very important point. The last one is important. Okay, thank you very much. From the audience, again, I will give the chance to the audience if anyone wants to raise his hand and share his question, comment, her question, comments. Anyone from the audience? Well, here I think we have 50 people here in this session from around the world, I think. I cannot, I do not know for sure where they are, but I think they come from different parts of the world. Anyone from the audience? No? If no, then again, I will ask Mr. Faruk from Turkey. So I want to elaborate further about your reflection again about what has been done by the government in Turkey, and then what can be contributed by the youth in your case, in the case of Turkey. Could you please elaborate further your view about these points, Mr. Faruk Yaman Karadenis? Yeah, please. Please unmute your phone. Unmute your phone. I think it's still.
Sorry. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you, Selamünaleyküm again. Yes, I will continue. Yes, Turkey has taken a series of measures in order to protect employment, especially youth employment in Turkey. As I said before, our government has taken some VAT and SSI payments are postponed for 6 months. 6 months that employees and companies are supported, and no rent will received by the public from the workplaces whose activities have been compulsory suspended. I already mentioned about this. I will continue about the, for example, protect employment directly. In Turkey has some action about the protect employment directly, which are providing government assistance to employees who have been granted unpaid leave or whose employment contract has ended due to the outbreak, providing financial support under the name of the short work allowance for the employees for workplaces with a serious decrease in work ability or who have completely suspended their activities. The other is developing flexible and remote working models and making them effective in public institutions and organizations. The termination of the employment contract by the employee is prohibited until 15th of June. The measure taken in terms of financial protection are as follows: giving loans with a low interest rates to firms with financial problems, delaying the payment terms, and carrying out preventive actions that will restrain consumers from accessing goods and distort free competitions. And this is the taking action about the during the COVID-19, and also our governments has been taken a general actions about the supports for youth employment in the Turkey. I can also mention about this. I want to talk about. I would like to give some information about this. Youth employment, which names Youth Employment Support Operations, carried by İşkur. İşkur is the Turkish employment agency, and it's an operation designed to provide young people with work and support young entrepreneurs, and its total budget is 26 million euro. The main purpose of this operation is to provide employment to the young unemployed people with the support of İşkur, as I said, Turkish employment agency, to provide entrepreneurs with young people. And the other is by registering universities and career centers in a database. Students has been provided with internship opportunities. I think this is important thing also. And young entrepreneurs are provided with tax and insurance premium incentives by the revenue administrations. Thank you.
Okay.
These are our
Okay.
sections.
So we have one question from the audience here. Mr. Anas Prioti. The question is, has there been any encouragement from the public and private sector to the government in your country in developing the employment sector, especially for young people today? If yes, what does it look like? I think I will start from Turkey first. So the question is, has there been any encouragement from the public or private sector to the government to do something more than what has been done now? Well, I understand that there could be some different opinions from the people about what the government has done. But perhaps in terms of this question from Mr. Anas Prioti, could you please, Mr. Farouk Yaman Karadenis, to give your first reflection about this? I mean, what people say about what has been done. It's not only about your opinion, but about what the people say. they could have different saying about what the government has been done and what they encourage to the government to do, and whether they are they think that it is enough or not. Please.
I think I believe that yes, maybe governments can do better things, can increase their support to the entrepreneurs about especially the tax issues or the maybe the other things. But I believe that we don't expect everything from the government. I think that's why Genç Musiad is here, and we are very active. That's also the other non-profit organization have been doing something, trying to be doing something about increasing support to the young people or young unemployment people that we say. That's why, yeah, government of course needs to do something about decreasing the unemployment rate, but I believe that it's not enough for decreasing unemployment rate for not only government actions. I think the private sector or non-profit organization can do better things to support government about these issues. And of course, we have some incubation centers, we have some catalysts, organization or non-profit organization as we have. Try to do something, but nowadays it's good. It seems to be good, but it will be more efficient.
All right. Okay. I think you mentioned a very important point. About well, we cannot expect everything from the government. We cannot hope everything from the government. We have to do it. The people, the society needs to help the government to do many things that cannot all be handled by the government. So I will go to Pak Singgih. As Pak Singgih, Mr. Singgih has mentioned a little bit more detail about what has been done by the government, what measures have been done. So now I want to ask Pak Jay about the contribution that have been made by the people to help other peoples. I mean, you know that in this time of pandemic, one of the issue that is important is about how to encourage people to work together, gotong royong, and then to donate to help each other. And what do you think about this effort in Indonesia, and to what extent the youth has been involved in that effort, Pak Singgih? Hello, Mr. Singgih. Pak Singgih. Okay, I will go to Mr. Abu Kadir Mubarak Ali. Mr. Abu Kadir Mubarak Ali, I will ask the same question. So, to what extent do you see, to what extent the people in Malaysia, the society has been involved in the effort to deal with the COVID-19? I mean, to what extent people has been involved in gotong royong, the effort together, helping each other, organizing things to help people, etc., etc. And to what extent the youth has been involved in that kind of effort? Mr. Abu Kadir Mubarak Ali. Mr. Abu Kadir Mubarak Ali, sorry.
Thank you, Brother Ahmad. So the lot of the youth NGOs in Malaysia has rallied together and helped create the PPE, the outfit that is needed by the frontliners in hospitals, by doctors and nurses. They have rallied with the fashion industry. The fashion industry who design clothes for fashion, they have come together and they have created the PPE and the gloves and the mask to help the frontliners. They have collected together money through the youth NGOs as well and the youth council, and raised together to help the government and also the healthcare industry. On the other hand, because of the unavailability of the people to go to work, some people in Malaysia, they earn a daily salary. So for the last 2 months, they were unable to go to work and they have lost so much income and they don't have enough food. So it's very heartening to know that the young youth NGOs in this particular area have rallied together and come up with the money together to help these people. So they are being helped in that manner, and we can see that more and more people are opening up, sharing the prosperity, the money they have together with the people who are underprivileged as well. So we can see that it's very heartening to know that in this difficult time, the youth NGOs and councils are helping each other.
Happy to hear that from Malaysia. What is the challenge in that effort from your experience there in Malaysia?
So the challenge is this is all a short-term solution, brother, and I think we have to look beyond just giving a one-off health assistance. We should look at something that empower these people, empower these,
6'da yapacak mıyız görüşmeyi?
and we look at a longer term solution,
yok.
much more
Şey
sustainable.
yaptınız mı?
So this is something that we have not looked at, and the government has an idea which I myself have been working on. So employers have less money to hire young people to work, while young people want to earn a better salary. So we have come up with a solution of a win-win for both sides. We are going to encourage the government actually might inject an hiring incentive and a wage incentive. Is a win-win solution for both employer and employee. So I'm finding a job, my salary is 1,000 USD, but it might not be enough. This is just an example only. So if I'm hired by company A, I'll get a subsidy from the government, extra money, while the employer who hire me will be given an incentive by government. So it's a win-win both. This employer will get assistance to hire me for the next 2 years, and
I'm sorry, I was locked out.
I will get extra income to and this is something that we are looking at. It's a win-win situation, but it's only temporary for the last 2 years only, because we want to, this is target rather more to the young graduates. I have to mention also, graduates who are graduating in this time is very difficult time. They might not get a job in this COVID-19 era. So those who are graduating right now will be very difficult. So I think one of the solutions that we can find is a win-win solution for employer and employee. It's what we call is a wage incentive and a hiring incentive. So both will get something, but temporarily, because I think we have to mention that government is not a panacea for all problems of the world. It's not a universal solution. I think we have to remind ourselves that as well.
All right, thank you. Very
Sorry.
interesting points. Okay.
Sorry, I was logged out.
I've
logged in again.
Can you give your opinion now, please? Can you share your thought now?
Okay, can I have the question? Sorry.
Yeah, so the question is this. You know that the government is not the solution for everything, right? And it is very important people are involved, society are involved to help each other, right? So what is your reflection about the effort of the people to help each other in Indonesia in gotong royong effort, and to what extent the youth has been involved in that effort?
Okay, so firstly, I think we can see the example of the UK. You know, in the UK, the previous Prime Minister David Cameron, he introduced the idea of a big society. So which means the big society means that, of course, the government is not a solution for everything, but it's not also laissez-faire government like in France, meaning the government has a role, but the government also believes in the empowerment of the society. Therefore, they come with the slogan of the big society. And I think Indonesia, since the beginning, has always been a big society. Like I mentioned before, yes, we are a nation which has the largest Muslim population in the world. So, firstly, our through our brotherhood and in Islam, we have also learned this. And then in addition to that, in our ideology and our philosophy of Pancasila as well, we learn a lot of things such as gotong royong, bahu membahu, and we also have a very high social awareness. We have a very high sense of affiliation, a very high sense of belonging, and sense of community. And I think what the young generations and what the young youth organization have been doing so far has been very commendable. For example, you see that a lot of the assistance team, whether it is from our country's intelligence unit working group Satgas, whether it is under the national disasters um, body, and also through our other, how can I put it, social organization and social associations. You know, if you look at it, in every province, I see that the governments are counting on the youth. I can see them everywhere. We are working hand in hand. I give you an example. KNPI is our Indonesian National Youth Council, and we have participated very actively in the national level as well as in the provincial, in the city, in the regencies, assisting the local government, assisting the local communities, and I think that the government should separate the working group into three. The first is working group on the medical. The second one is working group on security and safety, and the third one is working group on economy. And for all of this, the youth are very involved. For the medical, you have a lot of young doctors risking their lives at the frontier. You have the doctor associations also fighting bravely for the securities and safety, assisting the police and the armed forces. Because why the armed forces? Because this pandemic comes from outside of the country, so it enters through the border of the country. So it becomes a national issue, not just a provincial issue, because we have a presidential system. So this becomes the job of the national leaders. And so there must be the same alignment of interests between the national policymakers and provincial policymakers. In the beginning, there was different view and different interests. Some province was recommending to have a lockdown, some just recommending social distancing, some recommending completely closing businesses, and some recommending business as usual but taking very high precautions. And I see at the forefront of this, the youth actually playing a lot of role. We have the Indonesian National Youth Council, we have OIC Youth, or in this case, I can speak of Indonesia, Indonesian Young Entrepreneurs Association. They are donating the funds, they are donating some of their income, and also if you look at it, a lot of the younger entrepreneurs, we are giving a letter or recommendation to the government and to the Ministry of Finance, stating that we have to have a proper contingency plan. As what you mentioned just now, local graduates, for example, now, or any graduates, very difficult to find a job. That's why since last year, Indonesian government has been recommending increase in vocational studies. So vocational studies means that you can then go and study what you want to do, and then once you come out of university, you can do what you're good at. So I think all of this may be loose pieces here and there, but ultimately they all tie up, and they all give a very a very good solution, which basically comes down to national awareness and national resilience. So as long as you have a strong sense of affiliation, a strong sense of responsibility for humanity, and a strong sense of camaraderie, esprit de corps, between the youth and the organizations and all the stakeholders including our neighboring countries, if we can help each other. So I think the youth have been doing this very well. Especially with giving recommendations for policy formulation to the government in establishing a contingency plan and a stimulus package, an economic stimulus package through the Ministry of Finance post-COVID, until the situation has found a new equilibrium, and we have to we have to find a balance in the imbalance. So we have to be comfortable with a constant change of situation. And I think the youth have been in the forefront of this, as I'm sure in every other countries. Specifically, I can talk about Indonesia as the largest Muslim population. For example, all the Islamic youth organization, which actually are under OIC Youth Indonesia as the umbrella organization, have been doing a lot of social work. And we are counting on not only the government but also private sectors, our international, our neighboring countries' friends, international friends, to support each other in whatever we are good at.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting, Pak Jai, Arya Putra Singgih, about the experience of Indonesia. Actually, there is question from the audience, but because the topic is a bit different, I will continue first with the topic of the society's involvement in the effort to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. So I will go to Turkey now. Mr. Faruk Yaman Karadenis, I saw that video, a very brief video, a short video, showing the Turkish tradition of hanging bread. So when we are talking about people helping each other, so I saw that video, people hanging bread for the poor. So people can, I will pay the bread, and then simply I will leave that, and then the poor, when they come to the shop, then they simply can asking for the bread freely. Is that true, or what is your perspective about that kind of effort to help each other in Turkey, in the case of Turkey? And perhaps you can tell us about the story in Turkey, the special tradition there, etc. Mr. Faruk Yaman Karadenis, Mr. Faruk.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think Mr. Faruk has just a technical problem in his. He just right now mentioned to me personally. Let me shortly summarize the culture, because we are coming from the same culture.
I watched a brief video about the tradition in Turkey, about people hanging.
I got your point. I listened to you. I got your point. First of all, the video that you saw is real. It's actually an old culture in Turkey. It's coming from an Islamic value, actually. For those who are in welfare and who have availability and flexibility in terms of economic standards, are helping people who are in need in the Ramadan months especially. And this application is not just for bread, it's also for the clothes as well. It's also for other products as well. People are buying some products and putting them in front of the shops and putting a kind of price tag, which is saying there is no price. You can take it if you need. Also, there is another note. Generally, there is another note is being put next to this note, and it is saying that if you are not in need, put yours, which means if you have availability, if you have flexibility and ability to put something from your side, do not just look at it, also put from yourself as well something for those who are in need, as an example. So it's a very good implementation in our culture. Also, as Musiad, as young Musiad, we have another implementation which is coming from our culture. It's called as Zimmam debt. Zimmam is a kind of debt paper, debt account the shopping centers are keeping for people's debt. For example, you are buying bread from a shop, and if you don't have money, you are saying to the shop owner that, okay, I will pay you, just please write it in the records, I will pay you later. And the shop owners are keeping these records monthly, and trying to get this money from the buyers at the end of each month. So in the Ramadan times, our businessmen and our especially Musiad members are going to these shops and buying this debt record papers on behalf of the people who are in debt to these owners. So we are calling this as zimmem defteri. So in this meaning, Turkish culture is rich, and it's, as I said, coming from the Islamic values. Alhamdulillah, we are advertising this help campaign for the other associations in Turkey as well, and they are doing the similar works for their own organizations. And it's a kind of common application, as I said, in Turkish culture.
Thank you. So we will go to the audience. We have question from the audience. Okay, Mbak Astrid. So Mbak Astrid Nadia from Indonesia. So now we go back to the issue of the government. So the question is this one. It is interesting that you mentioned about that youth organization have to do more to pressure the government. I think this was the case of Malaysia, to come up the correct measure and swift decisions. So in this current situation, the question could be, should the government emphasize more on the economy, or emphasize now about preventing more spread of the COVID-19? So in some sense, there is a trade-off between dealing with the pandemic and dealing with the economy, and and some kind of balance could be needed in this case. So I want to go to Malaysia in this case. So Mr. Abdul Qadir Mubarak Ali, could you please share your thought, or perhaps what you see from what happens in Malaysia about this kind of balance, what the people want and what the government do about the balance between the preventing the spread of the COVID-19 and also preventing the decline in the economy. So Mr. Abdul Qadir Mubarak Ali.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I think you must hear that the government in Malaysia has changed the last 2 months. They've changed already, and it was we have a new government right now. So I must commend the government that they have carefully opened up the economy slowly, gradually, and according to the cases that we have. So as of yesterday, the cases reported was at the lowest ever, which is 16 cases only. And the curve is being flattened slowly already. And the last 2 weeks, 80% of the economic sector has been opened up. However, there were a lot of SOPs that were really strictly enforced by the government and authorities, and the Malaysians are actually following it quite well. I have to see that. And also the reason that they had to restart the economy because Malaysia was losing RM 2.5 billion per day because of the economy was not moving, and people were starting to lose their job. As I mentioned earlier in my discussion, it's predicted that there will be loss of 2.5 million jobs, highest ever in the history of Malaysia in the last 10 years. And we had no choice except to restart the economy. And Hari Raya, Eid al-Fitri, Eid Mubarak is coming out soon. In the last, I think in 25 May, and restrictions still applies. Malaysian cannot travel across streets. We cannot go to another state. We cannot go back to our kampong or village to celebrate Raya. We had to stay in our home, and there's restriction. Even schools has not been open for the last 3 months already. And the restaurants also has reduced dining in, and they have encouraged takeaways food. So businesses are eager to open up, while people are okay to take away food or through delivery of food delivery, example Food Panda or Grab, and they are looking at that. And the Malaysians are quite disciplined and they are very scared of the of the disease right now, because the death rate has increased a bit, and they are very careful. However, we also have people who are not following the rules as well. People lining up at McDonald's, people lining up at bubble tea to drink bubble tea because they have not been able to drink bubble tea for the last 2-3 months. They are relieving their cravings of food, so they are not, they indirectly, and maybe they do not realize they are not following the SOP as well. So we have that problem as well. And but the government has listened to the people and have decided to extend the restriction of movement until June 12th. So it was supposed to end yesterday, but the government had decided to extend until June 12th. So the government is listening to the people, and it is reacting to the people demands while balancing the economy needs as well. Because people need jobs, people need to earn money, and government can't be giving a payment of money every month to the Malaysian. They can't afford that. So slowly, inshallah, alhamdulillah, it's going to get better, hopefully.
Mr. Yusuf Akbal, could you please share your thought about this balance in the case of Turkey, the balance between the economy and the pandemic prevention?
Can you explain the question in detail? I didn't understand the balance and the.
You know that there is a trade-off between the being strict to prevent the spread of the COVID-19, and on the other hand, it will affect the economy. So we need a kind of balance between being strict for the preventing the pandemic and being less strict for the economy. So what do you think about that in the case of Turkey?
I understand. First of all, I would like to mention some important points related with Turkey. Turkey is the first or second country who took the preventions and restrictions in the beginning of the pandemic. So we have closed our schools in the second day of Corona has announced in our country. We have closed all the public areas and the cinemas and shopping malls in the third day of the pandemic. In this meaning, I congratulate my Ministry of Health, because we have taken so serious, strict actions on time, hatta in time, even in time we can say. So this affected our economy negatively as we have expected. But as human being and as Muslim, we believe that one life is more important than an economy. So the mentality has started like this. However, our country's strength and durability actually in terms of economics is not strong as like an European country or a Western developed countries. In this meaning, we are suffering now. But our government has announced some campaigns between the people, between directly the citizens. And during these campaigns, as I said before, people who are in welfare has donated money to people who are in need. So in this meaning, the balance is trying to be maintained by the people himself, by the people themselves, rather than a kind of government regulation. Even though government has announced some regulations, they are not enough for sure. So we try to handle ourselves by our own dynamics. There is an important issue in this case, because Turkey has before seen the military coup, economic crisis, dollar exchange, higher values. In the recent years, people get used to this kind of crisis. And maybe it is a new thing for Indonesia, or it's a kind of sudden thing for Malaysia. But for Turkey, since 2013, we are facing different hard issues, which a country cannot be able to maintain itself. So you see, in Egypt just has seen a military coup, and right now it is suffering. Or Syria has some issues, they are right now are suffering. But Turkey, alhamdulillah, is trying to maintain itself by itself. So in this meaning, our balance has been broken, but we are still struggling, we are still surviving. What I believe from now on, we are right now opening our malls, we are right now opening some points, but we have not decided to open the schools, for example. So some mandatory places such as schools, such as hospitals, should be restricted as much as possible. And our youth organizations, associations, mutual opinion in this way as well. But some places which are not mandatory, such as cinemas or entertainment areas, should be closed until the particular time in which the amount of cases, daily cases, will be under 100. This is our common idea and opinion by the non-governmental organizations, non-governmental youth organizations in Turkey.
Thank you very much. Okay, before we continue with the last statements from each speakers, I think there will be a video that will be broadcast to us by the committee. Please, the video will be please the administrator please for the video. Is the video ready yet? Okay.
Executive Secretary of OIC Youth Indonesia in the previous period. And Pakistan, Pakistan.
Kami akan menyerukan bahwasannya pemuda sudah selesai untuk menjadi keramaian. Kita sudah mulai akan membentuk sebuah barisan yang akan memperjuangkan peradaban umat, memperjuangkan Indonesia, memperjuangkan seluruh umat muslim di muka bumi. Takbir! Allahu Akbar!
Delegates, it is an honor for me to be here. I thank God Almighty, and I want to remind you all that the future belongs to you.
Magnificent for us to enlarge our community actually. Inshallah, we will be achieving this soon.
Kampus Rumah Gemilang Indonesia terletak di daerah Depok, Jawa Barat, berjarak 35 km dari pusat Jakarta yang memiliki luas 1.600 meter persegi. Rumah Gemilang Indonesia menjadi salah satu lembaga pendidikan yang memberikan pelatihan secara gratis kepada generasi muda produktif dari kalangan tidak mampu agar mempunyai keahlian dan siap menghadapi dunia kerja. Berbagai macam fasilitas tersedia di Rumah Gemilang Indonesia. Di antaranya asrama, perpustakaan, aula serbaguna, musola, dan kamar tamu. Rumah Gemilang Indonesia memiliki 6 kelas keterampilan, yaitu kelas desain grafis. Di kelas ini, para siswa mempelajari tentang dasar desain, manipulasi, ilustrasi, tipografi, dan layout. Kelas tata busana. Di kelas ini para siswa diberikan pengetahuan tentang konstruksi pola, analisa desain, dan menjahit. Kelas teknik komputer dan jaringan. Di kelas ini, para siswa mempelajari tentang hardware dan software, server, jaringan komputer, dan web development. Kelas otomotif. Di kelas ini, para siswa diberikan pengetahuan tentang sistem mesin, kelistrikan, dan standar kerja mekanik. Kelas fotografi dan videografi. Di kelas ini, para siswa mempelajari tentang cara mengoperasikan kamera foto dan video, editing, studio flash, dan produksi program TV. Kelas aplikasi perkantoran. Di kelas ini, para siswa diberikan pengetahuan tentang aplikasi pengolah kata, aplikasi pengolah angka, pengenalan internet, dan web instan. Para siswa juga diajak untuk melakukan kegiatan studi banding ke berbagai perusahaan lewat program Factory Tour. Selain pendidikan keterampilan, Rumah Gemilang Indonesia juga memberikan pendidikan keagamaan bagi para siswa, seperti Spiritual Care Community atau SCC, program menghafal Al-Quran, dan ceramah agama. Siapkah Anda untuk menjadi generasi gemilang berikutnya?
Alright, thank you very much. So those are two videos from OIC Youth and also from the Rumah Gemilang Indonesia. For you who are not Indonesian, Rumah Gemilang Indonesia is a not-for-profit organization focusing on supporting youth and mostly it is based on the zakat, wakaf, and other charity funds provided by the people. So, okay, and we are close to the end of the session, and before we end the session, I think I will give the chance for each speakers to deliver their very brief closing statement. I will start from Turkey first. Perhaps Mr. Faruk Yaman Karadenis, if he is here. If not, then Mr. Yusuf Akbal perhaps could take over his position. Please, Mr. Faruk or Mr. Faruk Yaman Karadenis or Mr. Yusuf Akbal. I will pass over the session, the forum to you. Mr. Yusuf. Okay, Yusuf Akbal. Please.
Sorry, I couldn't hear the last sentences. I think my internet is unstable.
Yeah, just
could
please
you repeat
give
the last
very
sentence?
brief closing statement for our session today.
It was very fruitful for us, especially for the informations from the Indonesia and Malaysia side. We have learned many things, especially about the Muslim countries. And I also would like to thank the speakers, and we have our participants from Turkey, our other board members. Mr. Cem is also here. I think he would like to congratulate the speakers as well. So as Young Musiad, our boards and our doors are open to all of the participants here. I also will mention my email address and the website of my organizations. Whenever you wish anything from Turkey in terms of information, cooperation, and the business related issues, we are here. You can contact with us. If you have any question for me, I would like to answer, of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your closing statement. And we go to Malaysia now, Mr. Abdul Kadir. Please, you have very brief. Please, would you please mention some closing statement?
Okay, thank you, Brother Ahmad. I think we in this era of COVID-19 and whatever issues that come in, the challenges that we have, I think we have to remind ourselves the role of Muslims, especially youth in the society. How we need to remember the teachings of Quran and Hadith, regardless of what situation we are in. I understand that we are in a very restricted movement right now, and we are relying a lot of our time with the digital. We have social media, we have movies to watch, we have games to play, and all. I think we have to remind ourselves that we need to remember the psyche of a human being in Islam as well. The spiritual part need to forget about that. We have to remind ourselves that that we still we have a God, we have Allah, we have our Rasulullah, and we have to remind ourselves the salah, our salat 5 times a day, and not to be locked into the crisis and think that we cannot practice our religion. Even though we are in Malaysia, we can't go to mosque yet to salat berjamaah together. We can't go to Friday prayers, but doesn't mean that we cannot pray at home. We cannot continue reading the Quran and Hadith, and we are in the holy month of Ramadan, and towards the last 10 nights of Ramadan, I think we take this opportunity also to to continue our ibadah as well. And on the other hand, I think the message that what we at Malaysian youth would recommend to the youth is to we need to look at adapting ourselves to the new norm and upskilling ourselves as well, and we have to keep reinventing ourselves, because situation might change, but if we keep reinventing ourselves, we can adapt to how the things are in this world, and then hopefully it will be we can create a better environment and a more sustainable environment for the youth and for our Muslim brothers and sisters as well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Singgih has left the session, and he said very apologize for not being able to be here with us until now. Okay, so finally, I think we can close this session, and just to summarize very briefly that all of us are agree that we are now in a special situation, in a not very easy situation that we have to deal with respect to the COVID-19 pandemics. And in this situation, everyone is expected to give more. The government is expected to give more, and especially the youth is expected to give more in order to be able to face the reality, to face the problem, and of course, to help the youth especially to deal with this difficult situation about in terms of their employability, in terms of the economy. And we hope, all of us hope that things will be better soon, and the youth, the people in general can be in a better situation in the near future. And we hope that the problem of the unemployment in the Muslim countries, and especially the youth unemployment, can be solved, can be made better in the near future. And that is the responsibility of us all. Thank you very much for your attendance tonight. For everyone who has been here, for the committee who have organized this event, thank you very much. And from me myself, I do apologize for mistakes. I do apologize for something that is beyond your, that is under your expectation. Thank you very much from me, Ahmad Akbar Susamto, and I will pass over the forum to the committee. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Dr. Akbar, for your excellent and impressive moderation. As always, it's always enlightening to listen to the discussions by our panelists, by our speakers, and we hope that it was beneficial for all. We gain insights from Malaysia, Turkey, and Indonesia, as we have reached more than 2 months since the situation of the quarantine and the MCO. So with that, on behalf of the organizers, me from OICU Indonesia, we'd like to thank you for taking your time. And just for information, we have shared the feedback form on the chat. So if you have input and feedback, we'd be very grateful for you to do so, as we aim to make our upcoming webinars and sessions even more better and seamless, efficient, and fruitful for all. So, and also don't forget to follow us on our social media. At Instagram, we are OICU Indonesia without any space, and also we are also on Facebook. And please also follow our organizing partner, in this case, the Rumah Gemilang and Lembaga Amil Zakat Al-Azhar, that have been very helpful in their input and their cooperation. And with that, we'd like to thank everyone here, the organizers. We still have the speakers from Genc Musiad. It's actually the second session. That we have a discussion also from our brother Abu Kadir from Majelis Belia, Malaysia. It was great to hear from you, because more than anything else, the discussion was important, but what's more important is the silaturahim. So with that, I think we thank you all for your coming. We thank also our advisor, Abang Tolup, and we have Adi Baikuni, Singgih, and everyone else. We have Wulan Sri Maulani, and Syafii Efendi. Actually, our president joined the session, but he had connection issues, so he'd like to say greetings and on his behalf. So thank you, everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Picture, maybe with a picture. Maybe with a picture. Ya, udah hilang.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Gadjah. Thank you, Tantan Taufiq.
Ya,
Thank you.
ya, terima kasih semuanya. Thank you.
Ya, mantap dulu. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Nah,
Thank you everyone.
thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Kok gelap ya?
Cek
Thank you.
123, cek 123.
Thank you everyone. And see you next time. Makasih Bang Tauluk. Makasih.
Sama-sama.
Yo.
Itu baju koko baru kayaknya ya.
Enak aja. Gak pernah dipakai. Kacau. Ente awet
Aduh.
muda. Bikin kangen itu kumisnya.
Waduh, justru ini
Itu asli apa palsu sih?
nambah 10 tahun ini gara-gara kumis lockdown nih. Ini genuine ini.
Oh, genuine ya. Besok tak kirimin tahu bakso lah ya, biar ininya enak, gurih gitu.
Belum bisa ke Jakarta ini.
Oh, saya kirim ke Pandeglang aja pakai
Google
kapal.
tenan.
Ah, kalau itu boleh.
Ya, kasih alamat aja pokoknya. Itu saya kirim ke Pandeglang dah.
Siap, boleh.
Yes, thank you Bang Tolup ya.
Karena gue harap nyambut gawe terus
diskusinya.
ya, Bang. Sesuknya.
Siap. Sama-sama.
Oke, yuk.
Salam ya buat semuanya ya. Waalaikumsalam
thank you.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, Bos.
Ya, makasih juga buat ini Bang Dokter Ahmad Akbar Susamto. Luar biasa.
Sama-sama Pak Taufiq.
Terima kasih loh.
Ya.
Ini langsung diajak ini nih, anak saya langsung minta hafalan Quran ini langsung di sebelah saya.
Wih, mantap.
Sama ini juga lagi sama anak ini.
Ya.
Waduh, pamer.
Ya.
Mas Akbar, makasih ya Mas Akbar
Sama-sama,
ya.
sama-sama.
Mbak Astrid, terima kasih. Mas Ilham Akbar dari OIC. Thank you semua, Mbak. Semuanya
Nanti
pokoknya
jam berapa, Bang?
panitianya.
Nyambut gawe. Nanti jam.
Ya, terima kasih.
Hah?
Mas Rayyan, Dr.
Sama-sama,
Akbar.
Mas. Sama-sama.
Ya,